Welcome to my Star Wars Star Wars Squadrons review. In this video we are reviewing the full game, the whole of the story. I have now completed it, and I can tell you right now that this game is no good whatsoever from EA. The only thing that kind of balances it out is the fact that it's not a full AAA priced game. You can pick this up for £35, so it is roughly half the price, but I still don't think the gameplay you get and the quality of it validates that price. So a couple of things first. If you are not interested in spoilers, this video will contain lots of spoilers, so I suggest you add the video to your watch later and then come back once you've experienced the story for yourself. I just want to point out as well that you will always get a follow, escort, defend or regroup objective in every single mission on this game. Not only that, but I calculated a rough time of actual play time of the story, and it took me around 5 hours. It was a total of 302 minutes, so 5 hours 2 minutes, and that is including watching every single cutscene in the game. There will be absolutely nothing to do with the online part of the game involved in this video. This is just a story review. I do actually kind of enjoy the online part of it, but the story was a complete letdown. The way I've structured this for the review is basically just pointing out things throughout the story that I either liked or I didn't like. At the end, I will give you a score. I don't normally do scores with reviews. I will be rating it out of 10. And then if you guys enjoy this type of video, leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and also feel free to suggest some games that we can go through, play, do reviews of, and if you have suggestions of specific content for them, then also let me know, all down in the comments. So, straight off the bat, we had some good cinematics. The cutscenes and everything, when they work, they are pretty good. They've done well, they've put detail in, they're nice to watch, they're okay to listen to, but overall the cinematics work was pretty good. You have like the original Star Wars soundtrack in there, and all of the sound effects of the weapons on the starfighters and stuff, they pretty much nailed the sound effects. You do, however, have incredibly limited story character customization, and the game is designed all in first person view. I think if I remember correctly, I saw my character once. I did hear him a few times when I was calling for resupplies during missions and stuff. When I first started this game, I did encounter a couple of bugs throughout the playthrough. But when I first started it, during the opening cutscene of the game when it transitions into turning on your throttles for the very first time, so that you can fly off and go and do systems checks, I actually had a blue screen instead of any cinematics playing, and I literally couldn't see anything. That was 7 minutes after I started playing this story. The one thing that did fix it for me, and I see this as a big positive for this game, they do give you the option to restart the story. If you go to the main menu, you can restart it so that if that does happen to you, you will not miss out on the first cinematic cutscene. You can watch it all over again. So, jumping into the gameplay, this isn't going to be mission specific. I'm just pointing out the parts that stood out to me the most. The one good thing they did with your character, the only time you actually get to see your character, right at the beginning of the game, during the prologue, your character actually talks, and you get to see them talking. Not many games actually do that. Like some games, or a lot of games, will just have your character standing there, just doing nothing, being spoken to. You get to see your character, but they don't ever speak. It was only for a split second, and it was the one time throughout the whole story, but that was a nice little touch that they added into it. The game, as soon as you come out of that hub with your ship, you will get a quick and simple tutorial to teach you the basics and how to control your starfighter. And then getting a little bit further into the story, still during the prologue, the game took a very bland and basic turn. It had Captain Javes choose to save the refugees instead of working with you. So that's like, during the prologue they set out the villain of the game, or so that you have two different sides to it. But the way they did it, like, there was no depth to it. It was very simple, boring, bland. And then as soon as you've done that part of the game, they throw you in with another tutorial, like, system check. And then they will chuck you into what feels like a fleet battle, which is one of their online modes. But it will only let you destroy the targeting system on that Star Destroyer. As I said, there's lots and lots of cutscenes in this game. But that's the prologue, pretty much done. You do a couple of system checks for the tutorial. You get a bland, turn for one of the characters, which kind of sets out two sides to the story, and that's the prologue. You've got to remember this entire story is about 5 hours long, so you're not going to get much depth in a lot of areas. Next up, and this one really frustrated me because it wouldn't have taken them too long to actually sort this out. They do not let you walk around at all. All you have is this simple sort of area. You spawn into a hangar. You have a starfighter in front of you. You have like loads of NPCs surrounding you. And then you have this like door to the side, and that's your briefing room. But you can't walk over to it. You can use both analog sticks to try and move around. All it does is just pans the camera up, down, left and right. That's all it does. It just gives you a simple prompt on the screen to press A, and then it does like a little black screen like fade into the next area. At the same time, you could look at it as being fairly pointless to walk around because there's only like 10-15 meters. But I think it would have been better if they let you actually walk around the hangar, explore it a little bit, kind of get more into, like, immersed into the story. Like, there wasn't a lot of immersion throughout this entire thing. I actually got to like mission 4 or 5, and I had to drag myself to complete the rest of this story because it got that tedious and boring. If we take a look at this part, the facial animations, whoever's been doing those animations needs to have more time or whatever because they are dreadful. The voice acting was awful. The voices didn't match any characters in the game or anything like that.
We had calm blackouts like this right before the Empire invaded Minbin. Lost a lot of friends. But I learned to shoot a blaster.
If I was to put my own price on this game, I would not be paying any more than £20 for it. It doesn't feel worth it at all, and there's a lot of different settings. We'll get into that a bit later on in the video, but for what I played, controller gameplay on the Xbox One, it didn't feel worth the £35 that I paid at all. As well as the facial animations and stuff, the dialogue in this game is so boring. There's absolutely no immersion, no depth to it. Some of the lines are stupid. But then again, after you're done with the briefing, you're back out into space or into these galaxies and stuff or whatever, and you have to follow more people. More following, more regrouping, more escorting, more defending. That's all you do throughout this entire story. Then we're going to move on to the starfighters, the ships themselves. They have done very well, in my opinion, with the interior. When you move from the story to the online portion of the game, you will start getting customization. Like, I don't know why they've done it like this, but the online has a lot more customization than the story. The story, they shouldn't have put any customization in there at all, because whatever you get to use, you'll never get to see. Like when you're changing your character's head, you see your guy's head once in the entire story, so it was completely pointless having that in there. But the interior of the ships themselves, the graphics all round, they are really good. In my opinion, they look pretty good. The different planets and stuff you go to, the different areas you're fighting in, they do feel unique. They have a very nice atmosphere. Some of them look really good. But then again, you're either scanning targets, following people around, defending, escorting, or regrouping. I'm going to bring that up a few times. And then when you start going back to the hangar later on in the game, you don't actually need to interact with everyone unless it's on the top of your screen. If you've got an objective, interact with these two people, then you have to interact with them before you can progress. If not, you will have optional dialogue that you can sit there and listen to, but that's pretty much the only option you get in this game. And then, are you ready for it? We finally, 4 missions into the game, start like switching it up and getting to use the different alliances like every other mission or something like that. And that only really starts, like, there's a couple of things that change about halfway through. There's a couple of things that change after the 4th mission, or when you get into the 4th mission, when you can actually use the other alliance and fly their ships instead of flying the one that you start the game with. Mission 5 of the game will chuck you out in a different starfighter again. There is a couple of different objectives. It's not just your following, escorting, defending and regrouping. They will, once throughout the entire game, chuck you into a stealth mission objective. You're not just following someone. You actually get to do a bit of stealth work. And then mission 5, as well as that, it took 15 minutes in total, and most of the mission was just simply escorting shuttles, which you'll do a couple of times in the game. Another annoying thing about this game is how they put loadout check prompts at the bottom left of your screen almost every single mission. You come out of the cutscene, you initiate the mission, and it just pops up with this annoying like sound effect, and at the bottom left you can see like press this button to view your loadout. Almost every single mission in the game. And then I'd just like to point out again that some of the areas you fly around in do look really cool. They feel cool to fly around in, but just even the fighting, like the gunplay and stuff, or I say gunplay, how your guns fire, the depth of it and how you feel, there's not a lot to it. So what we're going to do is jump from the 5th mission over to mission number 7. This one actually gives you a choice of starfighter. You finally, halfway through the game, get to choose which ship you want to fly. But don't think that lasts forever, because there will be a couple of missions after that where they will stop you choosing again and say, oh, you have to fly out in this one, you have to fly out in that one. Then a few missions you will get to choose again. So they kind of mix it up. So, I mean, it's nice to have that mix of play and not just always doing, I say not always doing the same thing, not always flying the same ship. They give you that option about halfway through the game. They needed to do that part of the game better. I don't know how to explain how they would have done it better, but I feel they kind of needed to start the story and give you an actual character that you can see several times, like let you customize the loadouts of your ships straight away, because you can only do that at a certain point in the story. They needed to give you, like, set the story up to give you way more freedom and way more choice with what you are doing, so that you can customize it to how you want to play the game, and not just them throwing you in and just, here you go, once every 3 or 4 missions you get an option to do this or do that. They could have done this so much better than what they did. And did I mention that mission 5 took 15 minutes to complete, roughly? Every single mission lasts around 15 minutes. There are 14 missions in total with this game. They all last roughly around the same. Like, you might have 1 or 2 missions, depending on how you're playing it, that might take 5 minutes longer. But on average, roughly, every single mission in this game lasts around 15 minutes. One of them I even did took me 12 minutes to do an entire mission. It would have been nice to have variation in the lengths of the missions, so some last 10-12 minutes, others lasting 25-30 minutes, depending on what you have to do. But it's not even like these 15 minutes per mission is even fun, because, again, you're always either following, escorting, defending, or regrouping. That's pretty much this game in a nutshell. If anyone in the future asks you, what do you do in Star Wars Squadrons? Just tell them, follow, escort, defend, or regroup. Those 4 things is pretty much all you are doing throughout this entire game. Another thing I noticed is, if you pay attention when you are getting these briefings, when you are standing at the table, no matter which alliance, either one of the two, when you are standing at the briefing table and they finished with the hologram that always pops up, every single mission you get a hologram that's kind of your briefing, there's a bit of dialogue, they talk and blah blah blah. Once that ends, if you just quickly flick round to the right towards the hangar door, if you watch, it's the same 2 people that have exactly the same animation programmed so that they walk to the door just as you are selecting to go through back to the hangar. Every single time, besides one mission, because I was paying attention to it very, very closely for just how much copy-paste there was with some of the animations and some of the things that happen, because the only thing different in the briefing room for that, like for a couple of missions, was simply just the hologram on the briefing table and the dialogue at the bottom of the screen. The characters pretty much always stand in exactly the same position, no one's ever doing anything different, and then when you go towards the hangar door or look towards it, because you can't actually fucking walk in this game, when you are turning your camera around, you will always see the same 2 people walking towards that door, besides one time, one of the people wasn't there, so there was just one guy that walked over to that door. Another thing, I completely forgot to take note of it, but I will put the gameplay in the background to match it. I'll go through the footage properly, and you will see that there were 2 waves of enemy ships that I had to take down. Both of these waves got stuck. So I had the bug where the cinematic stopped playing, I couldn't see anything on my screen, I had to start the entire story all over again. Thank God I was in the prologue still, like right at the beginning. But then you had this, and I'm so glad I was able to fix it. I'll explain how I fixed it in a moment, but these 2 waves of enemies, you'll see that I just smashed into the final enemy because I couldn't be bothered. They just sat there, didn't move, didn't shoot, didn't do anything. No attacking me, no nothing. They got stuck. Then my next objective, would you believe, was to follow someone. I went and sat right next to that guy's TIE fighter. Did he move? No. No, he didn't move. He sat there doing sweet FA. Sweet fuck all is what he did. I had to pause the game, I had to reload from checkpoint, and I'm so glad he started moving. I can't remember how far into the mission I was, probably right at the start. but it was just irritating the fact that both enemy waves got stuck. I managed to take those out and then have to go and follow someone like you do for every single mission in the game. And this guy in his TIE fighter was sitting there doing fucking somersaults in the middle of space. You're sitting there trying to do this important, I think it was because I don't remember the mission now, I think it was the one where you take down the missile defences, then you go for the Starhawk, their big like project. Instead of going for this Starhawk, with this got this like mega supersonic like tractor beam, instead of going for that, this guy's sitting there doing somersaults. Like, what is going on? But anyway, moving on. One mission, as I said, only took me 12 minutes. And during those 12 minutes, there were several cuts for switching the targets. It was the mission where you have to destroy the fuel pods or whatever they are, then you have to go and take down a target. Then once that target's done, you have to reach this part so that you can hyperspeed or whatever it's called, hyperfly, hyperdrive, hyper fucking find the next target. Once you found the next target, take that down, you have to do the same thing again. That mission in total took me 12 minutes, and I was trying to take down all of the optional objectives as well. 12 minutes with several cuts in the mission. So if you take the cuts out, and these targets are fairly close, you're looking at like 7 to 8 minutes for an entire mission. And then I kind of got bored of taking notes. I couldn't be bothered to play the game, let alone take any more notes. It's just rinse and repeat. The same follow, escort, defend and regroup objectives. After what seemed to be the end of the game, the final mission, oh no, there's a plot twist, and the guy that you have to kill is still alive. And there is another mission. There's just one more mission. You end up destroying, like you send the bloody Starhawk or whatever it's called, you send it into the moon and you have to try and fly out of it because there's this blast wave that's going to eat your ships alive and all this, and that's it. That's the game summarized. Like, I've just not put it in a nutshell because the video is quite long, but that's my review for Star Wars Squadrons. I'm not even going to say Boredom, but that's what I experienced pretty much the whole way through. As I said, like, a few missions into the game, it's just, do I really have to play this? Like, is it going to get any better? And you're just sitting there, oh look, I shoot this ship, I follow this ship, I escort these guys, I defend this objective, I regroup over there, and sometimes they make you fly like 4,000 or 5,000 meters to go and regroup, and oh, you have to ignite these cores, and then you have to wait for the right time for a frigate to sit right in the middle of this cluster, and then you just detonate one and kaboom, the frigate's dead. It's such a... I'm just going to say, I'm going to repeat my words, it's a boring, tedious story that I don't think, besides some of the... I'm not going to say animations, the cinematics, the cutscenes, the atmosphere, the areas, the interior of the ships, besides all of that, and the sound effects as well, besides that, I didn't really enjoy anything to this story. I didn't get attached to any characters, I didn't get attached to certain parts of it, there's absolutely nothing that gets you immersed in this. And as I said, you're always following, escorting, defending, or regrouping. Sometimes they'll chuck in scan, once you'll get stealth, but besides that, there is nothing in this story. As I said, 5 hours of total playtime, and that's watching every single cutscene, and there are a lot of them. I think, if I could give you a rough estimate, I'm going to say at least 30 to 40% of this game is cutscenes, if not more. So just a couple of things before we wrap up this review. I wanted to point out that this game can be played in VR. You can play it normally as well. It can be played with like flight sticks, it can be played with controller, it can be played with keyboard and mouse. It doesn't know what sort of a game it wants to be. It's got all of these options, and I watch a few channels that do reviews and stuff myself. I watch a guy called Mac. He runs the Worth a Buy channel on YouTube. I watched his video, not even a review. He's talking about this flight stick that he's using for this game, and they haven't tested it at all. In fact, the flight stick he's using has a 50% dead zone. So for those of you that are unaware, you get this flight stick and you can move left, right, up, down. It's just a flight stick, like a joystick type thing. And let's say you can move it at a 45-degree angle forward. As soon as you get to 22.5 degrees, that's when the ship starts moving, or that's when the throttle power increases. So a dead zone is basically how much of like an analog stick, a joystick or something you can move before you actually see anything happen on the screen. So whatever degree you can move your flight stick to, half of that will not have any impact on what happens on the screen. The game will not register that you're actually using your flight stick. So they haven't tested that. I don't have the means to test VR. I haven't bought this on PC because I don't feel this is a game designed for PC in terms of keyboard and mouse. I don't think this would be great to play using keyboard and mouse. I picked it up on the Xbox One. I played the game using a controller. And the game was responsive with a controller. I feel it was possibly built for a controller. Sometimes it can be tough to get used to the controls, but overall, it's a very, very bland story. Not a lot to it at all. No length to it, no depth to it. Animations are messed up. But there were some parts that stood out and I did enjoy them. The general gameplay is okay. Not my favourite type of game to play, but I do like Star Wars. I do like flying and stuff. So if I'm going to give this game a rating, I'm going to give it a 4. That number's been stuck in my head, and that's a 4 out of 10, by the way, not a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 10, because I feel EA have really, they've done a nice thing by making the game £35. There's no microtransactions or anything like that. You literally buy the game, you jump in, you play the game, and whatever you can get in-game, you can earn just by playing. So that was a nice thing. It's not a fully priced game, so props for that. But at the same time, they could have done so much better with this story, in my opinion. I feel they dropped off very, very short in a lot of areas. The only things that really stood out on the good part was like the sound effects, the interior of the ships and the atmosphere. And I mean, that's a lot of what to expect from this game. Like, you can't expect too much, but I did expect a hell of a lot more than what they actually did. I wanted better fights with different ships, and I wanted a couple of like secrets or something like that. Like, oh no, there's a different type of flagship, and not always just a bloody Star Destroyer or Starhawk or Raider. And I wanted a little bit more. And character-wise, I didn't get attached to any of the characters. I didn't really like any of them at all. I thought like none of them really served a purpose, or that's how it felt. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about it in the comments. I wish we had the ability to walk. I wish it wasn't just follow, escort, defend, or regroup. That's the final time I'm doing it. But I wish, and I feel they could have definitely done more. It was kind of like a surprise announcement. Like they said, oh, it was similar to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. They come out with a trailer. No, we're releasing this game. It's coming out in a few months. It was kind of one of those things. But as I said, they're 4 out of 10. I don't feel like, maybe if I was going to be generous, I'd push it up to a 5, but I don't feel generous. The game didn't feel worth the money to me. My personal opinion, I would definitely, if I had the choice to, I wouldn't pay £35 for this game. I wouldn't pick it up for any more than 20. So what we're going to do is leave the video there. Remember to let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments. I would appreciate it if you could leave a like if you enjoyed it and suggest other games and stuff we could review. Or if you just want me to play a random game, let me know what you want to see from that game in the comments. I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.